Hello, hello. It's me again, One Free Fits. We're here for some more Jets of Time. I'm joined by Beauty and Discovery. I'm gonna help me on comms, and we've got Drinks Glue, Lord Batsy, and Film Plays running today. Beauty, how are you today? What are we here to see?
Unfortunately,
I don't hear.
having a little issue here right now.
Testing 1, 2. It's Jets of Time, and I'm here with Beauty and Discovery. Okay. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and run us through the flags, and I'm going to kick off our racers as well, so we can get started. Give them the countdown. Oh, yeah. We'll load up the seed. That's definitely... That's definitely a part of it. And we'll run through kind of the flags we're going to see. Thanks to our incentives here, we will be having the girl party. All of our characters are going to be either Ayla's, Luca's, or Marl's. So our runners will be navigating that. In addition, we've turned on a lot of the randomized flags. So we're going to have randomized bosses. We're going to have randomized gear that will roll with like effects. The healing items will do a random amount of healing, and our techs will be random elements, and their MP costs have been shuffled. So some of them are going to be more powerful. We might get like a 20 magic fire 1. We might get a 1 MP flare, and everything in between. I'll try to point out the interesting ones there. Let me look at these flags real quick. What else we have going on? I think that'll be the main things. We'll have our standard sort of go modes going on. We will have magic unlocked from the beginning, so our runners won't have to hit up the end of time for that. Yeah, and then our bosses are going to be shuffled around too. All right. And I'm going to
looks like we have all of
kick
our
us
racers
off in
lined
the
up.
race room.
That was Beauty a second ago. Okay.
And we've got the countdown here. I'm going to get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we are off. And so, with the duplicate characters, we've got a double Luca here to start. The character sprite will represent like the abilities that they have. And then the palette tells us kind of which character they are for the purpose of like counting for checks or whatnot. So I think we've got a Robo with the greens, teals, I think, are kind of the Robo color scheme, and then a Luca. So 2 Lucas to start. I did turn on the duplicate tech flag as well, and so
Luca's on screen.
yeah, there's another Luca out there as well.
We needed more Lucas.
More the maximum. And so at the beginning here, we run around. We got to get some tabs. We want to get our groceries, which is ethers, mid-tonics, shelters, revives, heals. And then there's a couple of checks in the beginning that we can visit the jerky spot and buy potentially a key item there, as well as do the carpenter check for our other set. Yeah, and so runners, everyone kind of has their own little nuances to the opening, how many of the texts in the world, or the tabs in the world we want to get, where we want to take our grind fight, what order do we go around the world in. We're seeing Driscoll and Lord Batsy are hitting up the forest early on to find out, by taking 2 fights in here, they will unlock the first 2 texts, which are really our main source of damage and Jets of Time. Phone doing more of the opening tab route, and then will likely also decide where they're going to take a couple of fights to open us up.
The other thing with Jets is that you don't start with any items per se. You start with a little stack of cash, so there's the thought of going and doing some shopping, picking up the items you need, like your mid-tonics, your ethers, everything like that. But Bone also showing one of the other decisions is there is a key item that you can purchase for 9,900, which you have in your starting pot, but if you buy all your items, you might not have it. So that's one of the things you'll see racers make the decision of, do I go light on item purchasing and be able to buy that snail stop key item, or do I hold back and buy all my items and come back later?
Indeed, and we're seeing one of our Lucas started with a flare. I didn't see how powerful it was, so we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. And I did see we've got Vanilla Jerky in the snail stop, which Phone has picked up. It's not progression, but really early on, we can turn that in for a high tier item, and so, if it's like a prism dress or some like haste helm type thing, it can really speed up the rest of the seed.
And I think either way with the starting player, even if it rolled weak, it's still AoE, and AoE is fantastic. It'll open up a few things like Hecarim. Even if maybe you got to toss 2, you'll still be able to get it done relatively easy versus picking up a bunch of single target decks.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's more for I think we got to think about both how are we getting through kind of our opening dungeons, and then that's kind of unfortunate. And then also, how are we going to beat some of the later stuff? I saw the Jerky turned in for a moon armor, but since we have the all-girl party, nobody can wear that. It was like a +5 moon armor, too.
Now I'm curious, the sprite determines who can wear the armor, correct? So if they were to pick up multiple Tobin vests, which are fantastic for Lucas, right? Would that apply to all of them?
Yeah, definitely.
Getting our second key item check at the Carpenter's Tools, the Crisis Moon.
Which is also not really going to do anything for us in this one, because we won't have anyone to use it.
Remind me, the Crisis Moon replaces the Grand Leon or the Moss Moon?
Yeah, that one's going to replace the Grand Leon.
Yeah, so definitely a dead key item, unfortunately.
Get updated by Mechlin. I'll take care of that. You put something else.
No, it says 80 out of 80.
Yeah.
So usually we sometimes will find like a pendant or a gate key in those first 2 checks, but our runners, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because we're going to see more of the game,
Brits is $2 a head.
are going to have to earn their progression by doing either the bridge, the Denadoro Mountains, or Hecarim Cave. We're probably going to see Hecarim Cave pretty early, once we pick up that cathedral character. I was trying to think. Luca has 2 dual techs with themselves. One of them is Protect All, which is what it says on the can. It's Protect, but it goes on everyone. The other one, they flares double up to Point Flare, which is a single target version of Flare plus Flare. So it can be pretty powerful for like a Zeal 2 go mode if we end up going that way.
It looks like that flare was 8 MP, so roughly about equivalent of Fire 2 then.
Yeah, it'll be a tiny bit better than Fire 2. Like some of the power is preserved even if the MP shuffle goes around. So like I have noticed that an 8 MP Fire 2 will be a little bit weaker than a Flare. But that's not bad, yeah. That'll get us through most of our opening stuff, no problem. I mean, it's doing like 1,000 damage here.
All right, first Ayla Sprite, and that looks like a Luca or a Marl replacement. Or a Duke Marl, I should say.
Oh no, it sounds like Fritz is in trouble. I've just got an update, and I'm worried about disappearing in the middle of the run, but we'll see. I think with some donation love, we can change our fate.
Alas, let's not leave Fritz waiting forever for that guillotine to drop. Let's save him.
And so we have.
Speaking of Fritz, we just had a donation come in, $50 from Possum. Thanks to the FFR community for having me for 4 separate comms and runs. Much love to you and the Liam Foundation. He has put it towards keeping Fitz in chains. So that puts Fitz being left behind at 81 and Fitz being saved at 32.
Nope, for my co-commentator, but thank you, Possum, for the donation.
I mean, it is for a good cause, so I'm not going to try to get too upset about it. Unless if the margin gets pretty big, then I might have some feelings. But it looks like we have an Ayla. I'm looking at the color scheme here. Oh, it's an Ayla Marl. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know where Frog is. Frog is important in Jets because they're the one character that we are required to have for a go mode. So there's always kind of the decision, if we don't know where Frog is, do we go try to find them now and go to the back, or do we go, let's go look around for, we don't even have any sword pieces yet. I think if we knew where one of those were, we might be more incentivized to try to find early Frog, but dipping out after grabbing the opening chests and that very important, tasteful art of Nagets is a pretty good deal.
Lord Batsy following in the footsteps, also fading the back of Cathedral character for now. And Phone making the first dip in the Hecarim Cave, leaning on that flare that's going to wipe the screen on just about every single fight. Really great AP pickup, tech point pickup here. So it's a really great early play for some levels and some power.
Yeah, and not too hard of a boss spot back here. Hecarim is a fairly early in the vanilla game boss, doesn't have a ton of hit points, and with having flare plus some other stuff going on, a 15 MP Rolo kick is going to be pretty powerful.
That's going to be really nice.
I think there's some combos with like Fire 1, for instance, or something like that. That might be good, but a little bit of divergence, hitting up the desert for some fights. We definitely have the power with the flare. We don't have water, which would be nice, but I think 2 flares or a mega bomb will get it done. It's kind of the alternative to opening with Hecarim Cave. It doesn't give us quite as many tech points, but we get probably 4 times the amount of experience out of here. And we do have Robo, so we can finish it potentially.
You do get better gear. The loot in Desert Cave is a higher tier, so as a result, you can really pick up some strong stuff. And we have the normal setting for our equipment on, which means it's kind of along a more normal curve. It's not particularly hard, but it's not particularly easy. But still an opportunity to pick up some really good stuff. Like that top invest.
Indeed. I didn't catch what the bridge item was, but the fact that Batsy has reset leads me to believe it was not something we immediately won, so probably not a pendant or a gate key. Maybe even it could have been like a Robo ribbon, which is also, even though we have a Robo in spirit, unfortunately they can't wear it.
Yeah, similar to that Grand Leon, it's got to be tied to the sprites. So unfortunately, with none of those sprites coming into play, no one to wear it.
Taking this extra, we can sneak by this pot on phone screen, but it being their opening dungeon, and I think they're trying to get like triple kick maybe unlocked for Marl, Ayla. So I think taking the extra one makes a lot of sense here. So we're getting close to our first boss. We'll see who's in the back of the Hecarim cave here.
Yeah, I didn't see if phone picked up the Rolo kick quite yet, but with just Flare being the main damage output, that's going to be problematic if you get something like one of the Lavo spawns where you really don't want to hit the shell because of the counterattack.
This could be bad. This is bad.
Oh, yeah, this is bad. Flea, really gnarly boss. Correct me if I'm wrong, and again, I'm probably going to forget some of the specific details, but when Fleet gets to about half of their HP, we'll start doing really powerful full party counterattacks, and it's, I want to say about 50% chance it rolls, which we're not quite putting out the damage we need, so we're probably going to see at least one, maybe even two of those we'll have to heal through.
Yeah, because this is around a 2,000 hit point spot. You're spot on with that. When they get below half, it's allegedly 50%. I'm sure there's like small sample size bias going on, but it feels like it's about 75. The good news is if we don't have all of our party members up, they do not counter, and so oftentimes we might leave someone a little bit lower on health and try to intentionally have them take a nap during the fight so that we do not have to deal with that. Phone may be leaving Luca sleeping intentionally there and not trying to heal them up. We can always get lucky, but with the ethering and kind of our damage output, we potentially can get like 4 stair counters. Because I think, we're doing about 300. Marl's doing about, with a triple kick, like 450.
Okay, we got a big one. It's a 50 from headaches. That was, he was going to be putting that in. Danny! 40 and out. I'm 40 and out.
And so now that Luca's down on phone screen, they don't have to worry about those counters anymore. He's still going to like do attacks, but let's make this a lot safer.
Starting to see Glue spend some of their tabs that they picked up on some of the characters. Usually with tabs, it's a balancing act of who do you actually want to spend them on and how early you do, because they can really influence, especially even some early battles with the stats they give you. But of course, they're one-time use, so it really is kind of a bummer if you invest them in a character that you end up throwing away later. So seems to be making a commitment to who's in his party, at least 2 of those characters that got tabs.
Can I jump in with something brief and very impressive? We just got a $50 donation in from Headings. As promised, 50 for the no triple ones. Thanks so much for having us and looking forward to the next event. I'm going to stir some pots, put this towards saving Sid. And I want to point out that with this donation, which we'll get on the tracker in just a second, that lets us cross the $8,000 mark for the first time in any FFR marathon. GG's to everyone out there, and let's keep it going, everyone. And back to you.
Thank you very much. Incredible. Holy. Very nice.
Absolutely.
It looks like we got a gate key pretty early on phone side, which normally, if we don't have magic unlocked, is huge for us, especially with the tech damage shuffle. Our 3 starting characters might not have that much going on. We do have unlocked magic, so it's a little bit less of like a huge sort of slingshot, but Reptile Lair also offers quite a bit of experience if we fight those little beetles in the top. And if we get that secret tunnel, which I think Phone will probably go for, there's some high tier items that can be in those chests. So, additionally, there is a character available at the Dactyl Nest. They will always be level 15 and start with their first 3 techs. So an early gate key sometimes means we make to go pick up that character because they could be coming in immediately more powerful than anyone else that we have in the party. A Prism Helm plus 3.
Pretty
That's not too
gross
bad.
boss
Yeah, the mutants we
in the desert.
don't love to see.
I mean, I guess maybe getting it out of the pool earlier rather than later. The nice thing is Mega Mutant is the one of the 3 that does take physical damage, so that is nice. But Drinksco getting through it pretty handily, and now we'll be able to do the Robo turn in the desert.
Indeed. Yeah, very well handled. 4,000 experience, 40 tech points, a couple of good drops. Batsy actually getting a stair counter, but now that someone has gone down, someone's sleeping too. Oh no. I think they'll be able to kind of recover. Nice miss.
Oh,
And-
clutch dodge.
So clutch. Bone over here getting there, talking to our first new sighting. Getting the legendary Black Rock. It's got speed plus 2 on it, which is very nice.
Ooh. Very, very nice. There's a couple of checks, at least one distinct one in Mount Woe, where you really almost have to have a set speed to make it reasonable. And just generally speaking, great. You know, there's some of these characters that are rather slow, including a Luca and a Robo, and trying to maximize that because I've done Lavos at the end of the game with slow party. It's not fun.
Yeah, Phone dipping in to the forest maze. This is like if you play Chrono Sanity or like Archipelago Jets, then you kind of get familiar with how to avoid the encounters in here, and the loot's pretty good, so definitely worth a dip occasionally. I think if we saw them do this when they got to the future, hitting up the lab 32 chests, it's definitely a solid play, especially early in the seed. We're still looking for loot. I see a question in chat. Is there a setting to speed up the magic animations that the player casts? Not at the moment. That's definitely part of racing the game, is trying to take the less amount of turns possible. I think Jets at time, both enemy and player attacks do have kind of a long animation, and so when we're talking about like the importance of speed, a lot of that is so that we can go first and never see an enemy attack.
The one speed up that we do introduce into it that is technically a flag, but usually on as fast tabs. So normally when you pick up tabs, you kind of get frozen by the pop-up window and the jingle. With that flag on, you can walk just like with treasure chests, so you can pick it up and keep running. So that is one thing that was done to kind of speed things up a little bit.
Interesting. Seeing a Specchio visit here. Now magic is unlocked, but I think if we do this anyway, and we don't have our 3 techs unlocked, we will get them for free by doing the Specchio trip here.
Yeah, early enough gate key may make that worthwhile, especially because the third can take a little bit of time.
Nice and important. Gotta say no to Specchio. Okay. Did Phone get the secret? It looks like they did. Have gone into the alternate path through Reptile
Looks
Lair.
so.
I think Batsy will be probably heading. I don't know. We'll see where they go next. Dinodoro still hasn't been checked out. It's a little bit of a tougher boss at the end, and kind of a long dungeon to run through. So a lot of times
long dungeon,
runners.
but a very fun one because of all the fights that you're able to skip. It's a real fun dungeon, and that has a lot of skips, and it's a good way to kind of enjoy that aspect of the game, even if the boss is a little bit harder.
Yeah, indeed. And for the most part, the skips in there are kind of like, those were the first ones that I learned consistently.
So we've been talking about the secret dungeon. Lord Batsy did not take it, but essentially in that second screen where all the beetles are, there's an opportunity that if one of them digs in the bottom half of the screen, you can jump down that tunnel, and it takes you through a different pathway that has much higher loot, actually very high loot. So especially if you get an early gate key, which our runners have done, you can pick up some really great advanced gear rather than just hopping in the very first tunnel that's given to you.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a little bit of a meme sometimes, like, but early on it can be like a very powerful. I think that one on Phone's Play was gonna dig, but he's already been through, and I think they're just looking for some more levels or tech points here before they make their next move, which might be Mount Woe for them, just kind of based on what they might be doing.
I'll do a little bit. It's on.
Yeah, so.
Ooh, that flame kick on Drink's Glue side just did 2,000 damage in one shot the boss. That is
Incredible.
a really great roll on that dual tech. A strong one anyways, this Blaze Kick actually. One of the strongest ones anyways, but it looks like the roll on that has made it really, really powerful, which is going to be great for late game.
Yeah, I'm seeing another question in chat around the time-based chess. I think we might be talking about the sealed pendant chess, and in that case, we can open those in both time periods, and they will give us different drops. So we don't have to do the charge up thing in vanilla, where we go to the 600 AD, check it, and then go from there.
Giga on Lord in the Reptite layer. Interesting boss. You do have to be mindful of those hands because they will counterattack on you, as you're seeing right now. So usually the strat is to take the hands out. Thankfully, with the flare and a few of the other attacks we've got the means to take them down. But Lord Batsy leaning into that triple quick and now going to take a double counter.
Yeah, Giga Gaia is definitely one where we're trying to get those hands down and then pile on the head. With the boss Rando, I saw somewhere last night the hands had an incredible amount of HP. I think for this spot, they're probably in the 800, 1,000. So I think after this flare, those hands will go down.
And we're going to insert a bloodstained run for 45 minutes after.
Maybe?
It's probably a very good idea.
Not quite. Okay.
Well, no, I'm not hungry yet, but I'm going to need food. That sounds like a good idea.
I didn't catch what the Reptite reward was. Did you catch that, Beauty?
Unfortunately, did not.
Well, we'll see.
Three screens worth of action can be a little hard to keep track of sometimes.
If I need to, I pull up a stream and peek on the trackers, but. Alright, Right. Drinks is checking. So we'll get a peek at that to see what it actually was. Giga Gaia being a little spicy. A fun thing about the gear random flag is that Ayla's fists will roll effects, and they will change as she like hits certain level thresholds. She might have a speed boost right now. I didn't fully catch it, but I just saw it was, instead of being fist, it'll say like speed +1 or magic +2.
You called it correct on the bridge check. Drinks Glue gave us our redemption check, and sure enough, it is Robo's ribbon. So if no Robo Sprite in the seed, that does mean that it's a dead item. And sure enough, reset just as Lord Batsy did.
Yeah, we really haven't seen a go mode item other than Gate Key. Making the Woe trip. Mount Woe is definitely a longer dungeon, but there's probably something up here because we already know where Jerky, Grand Leon, and Robo's ribbon are. So pretty much the rest of our checks should pay off with something that we're looking for.
Speaking of Go mode, I know at the top you did talk a bit about there being 3 different Go modes, but did you break it down for our audience? I was missing a little bit there, and I think there's a good opportunity to kind of outline how our racers get to the end of the game.
Yeah, let's break it down. So we have 3 ways to finish the game and get the GGs. The first one, if we have Frog and the 2 sword pieces, we then go forge the sword, complete Magus's castle, fight Magus at the end. Then we go through Ocean Palace to fight the 3 phases of Lavos. Our second go mode, we do have the gate key for this already. We also need to find Dreamstone and the Ruby Knife. That will allow us to complete the Tyranno lair, which unlocks Ocean Palace, and we will again fight 3 phases of Lavos, finish the game. Then the third go mode, we need to have the pendant, the clone of Chrono, the Chrono trigger, and that will allow us to complete Death Peak, summon the Black Omen, and then we can enter that to clear the Black Omen, and we end up fighting Zeal, Mammon Machine, and the Zeal 2 fight. The gate key is really the only go mode item we've seen so far. I did roll this, so it might be a weird one overall. At least when it comes to where the key items are. I do love the Mountain of Woe. Mountains are nice, and this one is particularly nice sometimes when it drops the good stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say, Drinks Glue, pandering to his commentator today, doing the Mount Woe check. But also a little bit of a meta, right? Because not a lot of folks will always do it. I'm very guilty of fading that because it is a longer check. It's a little bit more difficult, especially relative to when you usually unlock it. So there can be a bit of a preference for continuing on with some of the more traditional checks like Denadaro, which none of our runners have done yet. So this can also be a bit of a meta play, thinking, you know, are any of my opponents doing it, and do I get an advantage by doing this before them?
Indeed. I think, again, knowing that some of the non-progression items, you know, we have a lot of our runners have information where those are, that going here early can be an edge, even though it is a longer check. Because there's so much, like, we will come out of here with end game levels and not have to really think about grinding for the rest of the seed. I mean, if we can run from every fight in here, you know, not get that much power, but the Giga Gaia boss is pretty thick in terms of HP. So going here late can feel bad because we don't need those levels anymore. And if it's something that we don't care about, that feels real bad to have wasted that time. But I think we're pretty guaranteed that we get something of a go mode in here. And where did the Toma's pop come from? Is that the reptile? This is like an alternative to going to WoW. It's kind of like, well, if I do Giant's Claw and Denadoro, then I've done 2 key item checks. I won't have as many levels, but usually there's opportunities to gain levels on the way to our goad modes. I did see a question in chat around enemy loot drops and steal items. So they are randomized and tiered by, it's a little bit obscure, but there's categories of rarity for monsters. So like Rubbles, which we're seeing blue screen, are one of the 2 or 3 ultra rare enemy types, and therefore they have higher tier drops. It's still like a 50% chance they drop nothing, and like a 40% chance it's a high tier consumable, like a 10% chance it's a high tier. So like the odds are not super great, but it could be like a prism specs, a prism dress, a haste helm, something that's really worth taking the time to fight them. They also give us the drop of magic tabs.
That's the awesome thing too, is that once that loot table is set, it's consistent, right? So if you get a really good drop from a fight or from an enemy that you can fight multiple times, you can then pick up multiple of them. So I know on easier item settings, sometimes enemies will even drop mega elixirs, which are phenomenal, because then I will continue to take those fights just so I can pick up as many as I like. It's almost better than the experience and the tech points.
And like, there are a couple of like nuances where the bridge has pretty good drops relative to where it is, because those Aussie fights count as boss, and bosses have pretty high tier drops in general overall. That's why the cranes can drop really good stuff in Magus Castle as well.
So you were talking about Giant's Claw. So Giant's Claw, one of the 680 dungeons, and to unlock you have to get the key item Toma Pop, which is what got picked up from Reptite Layer. You pour that on Toma's grave, and 1,000 unlocks that dungeon. And so it's one of our gated dungeons. That's a little bit of a chain, if you will.
Yeah, it's not that long, other than the one lizard dactyl fight. All of the fights in here are pretty avoidable. There's like 4 power tabs and a rock in this dungeon as well. So it's another one that sometimes I think is faded just because you have to sit through a cutscene to open it up, right? We never love to do that. It's a pretty quick dungeon once we get in it. And the boss down here, although Golem is a little bit rough, is not necessarily that powerful. Like, they can have a lot of hit points, but like the Rust Terreno spot doesn't have high stats necessarily. So as long as we kind of comfortably chew through hit points. I just noticed this. I did mention the healing item randomization, and so Ethers are only recovering 8 instead of 10, for instance. So they rolled a little bit low. And that could be true for mid-Ethers, full Ethers, tonics, mid-tonics. Like, I think full tonics were only healing for like 350, which they normally do 500. So far, it looks like the healing items have rolled on the lower end of the range. Is more annoying than super dungeon.
Yeah, I think with tech damage rando, it's a little less so, because things like, say, flare is normally 20 MP, so 2 ethers will get you there. Now you're going to need 3 if it rolled down because of healing items, so it's a little more punishing, I would say, when things are a little more set. But of course, that really depends on how tech rando rules for you as well. Oh, vanilla prism shard.
Okay. Well, like, okay, we can keep going on this chain, you know? Like, we got Marl.
Yeah, and certainly as a runner, there's a certain sense of like, hey, lean into what you're doing, right? You know, if you have already committed to this and you're thinking maybe one of my other runners has not, this either has ultimate value or really sinks me. So I know for myself, and we'll see if Lord Batsy sticks to it too after the desert check, going in for that prism shard check.
I saw a rainbow. It was a -2, but I feel like it's always kind of a meme in Jets of Time is if you don't have Chrono, you will find like 5 rainbow swords. But if you have Chrono in your party, then you will. I can't remember the last time I had a rainbow and a Chrono at the same time. Like I've had a Kali Blade, I've had like a Slasher 2, like, but not the best of the best.
Yeah, and for those that are not aware, Chrono, a very strong character, but very gear dependent, as opposed to someone like Ayla that just uses their fists. So as a result, you kind of need those good swords, even if you have great techs. If he doesn't pick up a good sword, it's a little rough. So yeah, definitely the meme that we have his best sword, and he's going to be nowhere to be seen, at least this spring.
We're getting close to the end of Mount Woe. We'll be able to see a boss up here.
I'll take them. Don't worry. They're remote.
Yeah, it's been different techniques between Phone drinks glue. Phone going more for the skips, ignoring the rubbles, which are really great tech points, whereas Glue has been focusing more on taking some of the fights and as you mentioned, almost grinding up to end game levels. So once you walk off the mountain, you're not worrying about any more grinds or anything. You feel very ready to take on whatever go mode is going to throw at you.
Yeah, I noticed a pretty powerful combination of, I think, Luca has a 20 MP fire too, and Marl Ayla has a 15 MP triple kick. So Blaze kick is gonna do good. I would say probably
that's
even
great.
better than it normally does because triple kick is a little bit weaker, but the difference between an 8 and 20 MP fire 2 is going to more than compensate for a slightly weaker triple kick.
Yeah, randomization essentially flip-flop the flare and the fire too.
Yeah, with the Rebels dropping magic tabs, one of my favorites, and with the 20 MP fire too, if Tailspin rolls anywhere decent, Fire Whirl is also very powerful, and because Ayla normally has pretty low magic, like we see right now she's got 9, the damage multiplier on Tailspin is like, I think it's the highest in the game. It's like 29.2 or something like that. And so, like 5 points of magic, Tailspin ignoring magic defense can translate into like 500. So like the magic tabs weirdly, you can kind of build like a mage Ayla that just spins to win. What I like to call it, just use Tailspin on everything, and it always does full damage.
Well, making it to the top of Mount Woe first, showing us a mostly free boss. Atropos not terribly difficult at all unless you let the fight get long in the tooth. Towards the end of the script for the fight, she does start doing some strong attacks, but otherwise not super powerful.
Yeah, it's really earlier in the game spots that they can be a bit of a problem because they do heal themselves pretty frequently, and healing is not level based in Jets of Time, it's only based on magic. So that heal can do a lot, where I've run into like Atropos that I just can't out damage the amount of healing they're doing.
Oh.
But I don't think with those like 3,500 already damage blaze kicks that much is going to be able to stand in front of this party for very long.
Just about to mention that.
Especially because they'll eventually have access to haste with... No, we don't have a Morrow in the party. They could get haste, but... I don't know. I don't think we're going to be picking up any more party members either.
Blue's showing off the point flare, too, for the first time, and also doing roughly equivalent, about 3,500. So this party is absolutely pouring on the damage.
I think I misspoke earlier. Point flare uses fire 2 as its base. So it's 25% extra damage on top of fire 2 from each character added together. And it looks like one of the fire 2s is a vanilla 8. No, the other one is 20. So that one is also going to be a pretty big hit. These 3 characters rolled pretty good techs.
Yeah, these characters rolled fantastic techs. Sometimes you're kind of thinking to yourself, let me go ahead and do Dactyl Nest, do some of the other character checks. Not really necessary. First 3 it gave you were plenty fine enough for your final boss.
Yeah, I think unless we see those sword pieces come out, we're not going to see, like, looking around for another character. The Chrono trigger at the top of Mount Woe. We don't have a pendant, so it's not like immediately useful.
No, not immediately. And interesting enough, Lord Batsy is skewing the Prism Shard and continuing along with the going up to Mount Woe, so all 3 of our racers will go up there. Phone going back to Riptide will get the Toma's Pop, and I think at this point, outside of Denadoro, which is one of our opening checks that no one's done quite yet, and Drinks Glue is actually walking into, I imagine he will go to Giant's Claw and probably do the Prism check after that. I think the other thing that's interesting about the Prism Shard check as well is it is peekable. It's one of the few checks in this game that you can actually see what the key item is before you really commit to the fights and the scripts. You just have to turn in the Rainbow Shell in 600, go to 1,000, go into the castle, and if you go to the basement before you trigger the trial scene, you can see what it's going to give you and then make a decision if you want to commit to the fight and the rest of the script. It's a little bit extra time, so some folks don't always do it, but if it's a wash, then it saves you a bunch of time.
Yeah, it's one of those where, again, if we knew there was a lot of non-progression items still in the key item pool, then I would peek it, but knowing that, you know, we're not even looking for a specific go mode, we're just looking for more go mode items. That in this specific scenario, I might personally be inclined to just go do the check and not worry about looking at it, because, yeah, we've got a Chrono trigger, but no pendant, no clone. We've got a gate key, but no Dreamstone, no Ruby Knife, and we have no frog and no sword pieces, so...
At this point, the only non-progression key item out there is the Hero's Medal. Everything else is progression, so it's really a race to kind of hopefully pick up something that's synergistic, like you were saying with the clone and the pendant, so that you can go into Black Omen Go mode or whatever.
And even the Hero Medal, at least, we can turn in for another key item, so it's kind of another fetch quest, but... and we can't use it as, like, we won't have any frogs, but... yeah, at this point, mountains are nice. I would agree.
But I think the other thing that's kind of holds back the Prism Shard, maybe informing Lord Batsy, is she did pick up a Moonstone. And the Moonstone, similar to the game, you go back to 65 million, you put it in the shrine, then you have to go all the way to the far future, 2300, to pick it up. So without the pendant, we don't have access there. But once you have the Moonstone, it is a 2-for-1 deal, because that turn-in is the same place as the Rainbow Shell. So maybe knowing that she has both, thinking to herself, if I can pick up Pennant, then I can economize on that rather than having to go back potentially.
Yeah, If we can avoid the double dips whenever possible, it's always good. Little jerk bird. Drinks glue there. Denadora.
Yeah, that jerk bird is very much lives up to its name. It's kind of a thin window to be able to avoid it, and if you don't time it quite right, it does exactly what it's doing to glue. So,
Yeah, it's very interesting because if like they're close to the ladder, then they get brave and will knock you down. But if they're far away from the ladder, they just run away when you come up the ladder. But, oh yeah, and they do it again.
just one more time to pour salt on the wound.
We are going to see a new key item check to us. A new boss as well. This is like a 3,000 hit point spot. It's kind of punchy, like physically, because it's the mass immune combined. But first we have to get through the individuals. We only have to take one down, and any of these will do. Because they only have like 1,000 hit points. Presto Changeo. Yeah, this would have been horrible to come right away. This is a reset and leave if this is my first check, but luckily. So yeah, Dalton Plus is like a worse version of the Golem fight. Mechanically, they have similarities where they'll counter or attack with whatever element that they use. Actually, it's worse because the Golems don't counter. It just changes their element. Dalton will counter with every attack. In addition, they do these like orb attacks, and the first two don't really hurt that bad, and then after that, they're like huge physical attacks that might drop even like a current pretty high level party member. However, again, we'd rather see them here now than somewhere where they have like 10,000 hit points and hit a lot harder. Definitely a crowd favorite, if not, certainly not a runner favorite to run into.
I feel like it's a universal amongst any competitive randomizer racing that whatever is a runner hated is a crowd favorite and vice versa.
There's always a chance that we could see him again because the Ocean Palace twin golem spot can be like a boss we've already seen before. The hero.
Heroes medal. Wow. So we have all the Chrono key items at this point.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. So Prism Shard. I think if I'm reading this right, Prism Shard has to have Pennant. Because I think that's the last check we have not seen.
Something's gonna take us to the future at some point. Hero medal.
Actually, no, that's right. Yeah, I always forget that one. One of the more niche ones. So one more check here.
See a new.
No new. 1 for 2 now on new sightings. One more character look though. It's a vanilla Isla.
Ayla. Sword piece. Not what we want to see, I would say, in Drake's Blue position. We don't know where Frog is, and we probably want to go try to find a Frog without finding that other sword piece. So, yeah, we're staring at turning into Prism Shard. Or, yeah, not the best stuff going on. Or we go to try to find a Frog. Find a sword piece.
Yeah, I mean, we only have one of the sword pieces, though, unfortunately. So I think as much as a Frog is alluring, there's still the problem that you can't do anything with them quite yet. Well, interesting phone. doing the rainbow shell turn-in. So if you have not done the bridge, the king is still injured in his bed, versus if you do the Xenon bridge check, then he is on his throne. Very easy to catch up newer runners who aren't as familiar. You kind of run in and you're like, wait a minute, where's the king? Where do I turn this stinking thing in?
Yeah, I mostly just forget to talk to the king before trying to go do the thing, and it's like, wait, where's the thing? It's not there.
Yeah, I feel like in Jets of Time, so many of the checks have setups, like the Telma Pop pouring on his grave before Giant's Claw opens up, the Rainbow Shell turning into the King in 600, or you can do the trial in 1,000, so on and so forth. So many of them, if you're not familiar, you can catch yourself having to backtrack or do a lot of era shifts. Guilty as charged.
And it looks like we're about to see some double trials, as Betsy, as well as talked to the king, secured the rainbow shell, and then they're going to travel to 1,000 AD. Nothing weird is going to be happening.
Yeah, I think at this point, Lord Batsy and Phone pretty equalized.
Yeah, I was trying to think if anyone has done a check that the other one hasn't. But neither of them have gone to Denadoro yet.
Lord Batsy validating the seed by petting Chrono's cat in his
Yes.
house. A great place to get a free heal, but you have to pet the cat while you're there. Them's the
Very
rules.
important. It is on the tracker, both like the player tracker as well as like our That's a Time Restream channel tracker. Got it. We've got a cat. Make sure it's validated.
The Marl Ayla breaking through the glass in the trial seems much more in character than Marl, I must say.
Indeed.
Oh, there's our second new.
The Guardian knew. Who let this robot know?
So boss randomization in Chrono Trigger was a little difficult for our devs. And I say that as a very new player, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But the sprites are just sometimes so big and so vibrant that they don't always shuffle super well. So for the Guardian, which is normally in 2300, which is a giant sprite, the go-between is to replace it with a new so it could then be shuffled into the pool and actually still fit in the majority of locations.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like boss randomization happened a little bit in waves where there were like a couple of bosses that originally were excluded. The dragon tank spot was one of them, for instance, but eventually they were able to work everyone in, including like adding, I think Dalton Plus was one that got added in as well, because we don't normally go to the Blackbird in Jets of Time. There is a flag to add it back in as a check, so we can. It's just like
Yeah.
in the base.
Phone is one of the community members who vouches very heavily for the Blackbird and
Huge
getting
fan
it in.
of Blackbird. Advocating to get it back in for a while. Kind of a weird dungeon though. With take your steps. Not necessarily opposed to it, but it's just, another check that will give me something that I don't want at the end. Did we see a peak? This is our first peak. Did Batsy go down too? And I didn't.
Bancy went down in, looked like she did the pickup, but is now having to do the trial second. So did peek it first to see if it was value. Denadaro's still outstanding for her, so maybe checking to see before breaking off if it was another throwaway item.
The pendant. That's both big and I guess annoying if we were trying to not come here twice. Because we need the pendant to charge up the sunstone. But we'll acquire that pendant. We will have to complete the trial. Um, that'll give our runners access to the future and 3 dungeons plus being able to charge up the Sunstone to turn in for a total of 4 checks that pendant opens up. Conan may have not peaked the bridge yet. That's what this is. So they're
Interesting.
gonna
I can't remember. Did Phone not peak the bridge already, or
I don't
is
think so.
actually interested now in the Robos Ribbon for
because they
some
went to the
reason?
desert right away, and then
Okay.
I think the gatekeep appeared pretty early. So sometimes it's like when we find early access to other timelines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're set up with that flare pretty early and a starting robo so you can do desert. Yeah, normally Xenon Bridge is just done so early. It's almost a little jarring to see a runner do it so late.
Yep, but seeing it's the ribbon, reset. Probably turn that pendant in. Head to the future.
Yeah, that's gonna help. Yeah, it's gonna help equalize a little bit. Lord Batsy being a little behind at this point. I'm gonna assume that because she went ahead and took this check, that she's gonna commit to go into the future rather than go to Denadaro before using that pendant.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So the pendant is our second go mode item. I think, 'cause if everyone, yeah, everyone's got the Chrono trigger, so we're really looking for the clone for our pendant people. Batsy stopping off to drop off. Moonstone,
Moonstone,
which
yeah.
checks out now that we have future access. I think if I was sitting in Phone and Batsy's shoes, I'm going to the future. I'm probably gonna try the Sun Palace spot right away.
Yes, Sun Palace, the fastest of the checks. You only have to get through a boss. It's about 5,000 HP, which with this party, that's a 2-shot. And so it should be really quick as opposed to the other 2 checks require dungeons first, which aren't terribly long, but nonetheless, still more time.
And then if that doesn't give me what we're looking for, I might go turn in that Moonstone before I decide between the domes.
Yeah, when you're in that position where you only need one more key item, it really just comes down to economy. How fast can you do them? Because you're hoping that it's going to spike that clone and put you into go mode. And I know for Lord Batsy, Black Omen go mode, which is what the clone will put the Razors into, is her favorite. So I think she will be quite joyed to see that be the go mode for today.
Yeah, a well-executed Black Omen feels good because it's a long dungeon, like relative to Ocean Palace, like the other final go mode dungeon. Say that getting the Ocean Palace usually a longer dungeon. Death Peak, so it's kind of like there's a lot of discussion about what's the fastest. Sometimes in a race we can see it like play out in real time, where we get 2 people getting 2 different ones at the same time. But I would say generally, it's still kind of you take the one you get. There's a real.
Oh no, I'm
fast check.
realizing. I'm seeing Phone make the moves to save Fritz. Has anyone told him that Fritz is on the chopping block?
Or you may have forgotten there was incentive.
Well, let me double check that, but I'm pretty sure it hasn't changed. And yep, it looks like leaving Fritz locked away is still the leader with $81.
Message. In fairness, Phone just asked in the race room, like before he went and started this trial, and I didn't see it, but I've informed them.
Yeah, the nuances of it being able to change live. So hopefully we can get the word to Lord Batsy and Drinks Glue so we can maintain the integrity. Two for three should still hopefully meet the
We
expectation.
will abandon Fritz as much as we can. Informed. Just so that, you know, there can be no questions that the commentator had a bias on this. I just, oh yeah, they're doing the thing. But I see Batsy, without hesitation, is abandoned. Ooh.
Sounds very interesting.
It's not necessarily dangerous with like an hour into the seed. It's more of we have like 450 hit points. It's more of kind of an annoying boss if we don't get lucky with.
Yeah, Son, one of the puzzle bosses, if you will, in Chrono Trigger. You can't just outright nuke it into oblivion. You have to hit one of the flames that is vulnerable, and then hit it 10 times to beat the boss. So all this power means absolutely nothing. You're going to have to find the vulnerable flame, and 0 for 2 so far for Phone.
Now there is a weird, you can tailspin Son center. Like, cause the way its script works is like, once it takes so much damage, it just dies. Even though it has like 20,000 hit points. So that's kind of how the flames do. And we gotta do 10 to beat it. So potentially it can be faster. Just like use tailspin, but I don't think we have it unlocked. And also, if you hit the eye, it counters every time. So it's not. I wouldn't call it a wise move, but doable.
Yes. Yeah, certainly in spots where you have low power or low magic power where it's not going to hurt so bad, or maybe you have the armor to absorb, like 3 red males, then yeah, certainly can drop that AoE, see immediately which one is the vulnerable flame, and then just keep ticking away at it.
Let me just break in here for a moment. Are we all past the save Fritz point?
No.
Because we just got a $50 donation from Anonymous to save Fritz, which puts save at the top by $1.
Drinks Glue, you gotta save. You gotta save. Save him. Well, unless it still
The
could
best
change.
part is the Racer Outstanding is in the room. It can be told live.
Yeah, they were getting very close. Son has lost their flame. Phone is on their way to the future. I always love games that have a future phase, and like how far did they decide to go out when saying it was the future? Because I feel like Mega Man X is set in like 20XX, I think. So like that's not. It's like that wasn't very far out versus Chrono Trigger is 2300. So.
But at the same time, the apocalypse happens in 1999,
That
which
is
this
true.
game came out in, what, like 96?
That is true.
95?
And there were like domes in 1990. If you watch the cutscene on the computer, like there's already like biodomes going on that people are living in. So
Very inspired by Pauly Shore. Said nobody ever.
All right, so phone in the future, heading back to the past. I think they already put the sunstone or the moonstone down. Maybe we're double checking.
No, that's not of Lord Batsy did. So phone did show off one thing. One of the flags that we have on is the fast pennant flag. So if you're familiar with the game, you normally don't get the ability to unlock the sealed doors and chests until much later in the game when you first present the pennant in Zeal. But with the fast pennant, as soon as you use it to unlock the future, it becomes charged. So you're able to unlock those chests. So that's one of the things that can be very helpful is taking an early pennant, charging it, and then getting some really great loot and powering up your characters that way.
Yeah, similar to the early gate key being advantageous, an early pendant, although we do have to beat a boss to charge it up. So sometimes there's that consideration. Like, the dragon tank spot has like 4,000 hit points too. So if it's like a single part boss that ends up there, like a flea, that might be tough to get through early. So there's always a little bit of like, when's the right
Interesting,
time to
Lord.
go?
Yeah, interesting. Lord Batsy deciding against Son of Sun. It looks like she's going to be doing the Eris Dome, which is the first dungeon you kind of do traditionally because it is the lowest level one. I did pick up a Prism Helm.
That's pretty big.
From that. That is phenomenal. Actually, no, this is not Eris Dome. I take that back. The southern one.
Thinking. There's some thought going on. Where do I go next?
Oh, wow.
Take the free one.
The Moonstone just gave the clone, so that puts phone in go mode. That is huge.
Well, Batsy's grabbing the Sunstone and hadn't turned it in.
Yeah, committing to it. So thankfully, that is going to keep them roughly on parity versus, say, going to the Son of Sun like we discussed, which would have separated them.
Yeah, we're gonna have very close finish.
That's going to be a bit of a Black Omen foot race at this point. You know, how many fights do you take? There's a fair amount of required fights in there that you cannot skip. But there's still plenty that you can skip that sometimes runners take, especially if you're needing levels. So going to be curious to see who does what. I imagine at this point, both have done well. We've done a lot of checks. Probably going to skip everything except the required. But nonetheless, an opportunity to really be neck and neck and maybe gain up a little bit of ground that Lord Batsy needs to gain true parity.
Yeah, and obviously it's blind racing, so we never really know where our opponents are. So a lot of times, I'll try to race by race, right? So it would be interesting if we got like an alert, like a go mode was achieved, but. It would just change like the decision making. You got an alert. Someone in the race has got a go mode. Like everyone is just gonna start cutting corners and try to step on the gas versus just always doing that sort of thing. But yeah, I think it's gonna come down to, as you mentioned, how many fights are we gonna take on the way? How much shopping are we gonna do at the new shop? I definitely have seen races decided by how long we shop at the last shop in the game.
Yeah, and Black Omen being a longer dungeon, you do kind of need a fair bit of shelters to get through it. I did see in Phone's inventory they do have 7, which, if I remember correctly, is roughly what is considered viable for the check. So probably not going to have to do too much shopping for it dipping right into the Black Omen.
Yeah, we're probably not looking to not hunting for some tech to unlock late in the tech order. Not worrying about levels. Death Peak is another one that, like, learning the skips, the tree method. I don't know how to do that one, but
No, I don't know how to do that one either. That was
a crisis
very
gun.
swaggy.
All right.
And what does said crisis gun do other than put us in a crisis?
So the crisis effect makes the weapon damage multiplied by a multiplier that's based on the last digit of the hit points. So like I remember as a kid playing vanilla Chrono Trigger and thinking the Crisis Arm had to do with like a VK sort of thing, where it's like low hit points means more damage. No, it's like if the last HP digit is 9, there is a 4.5 times multiplier on the base weapon. And then it goes down 0.5 from there. If the last digit is 0, it's a times 0, so you do no damage. Luca doesn't have techs that use her weapon. The Crisis effect is a lot more useful on a Robo, Frog, Chrono. I guess if Ayla could get a Crisis Fist, that would be wild, honestly. They do enough damage without multipliers.
Phone has been incredibly swaggy on this.
Now, I will say that the Luca with the Crisis gun at max HP is at 449 right now. So, if she shoots her gun without getting hurt, it will do an amount of damage. I don't know if it's going to be like, whoa.
I didn't realize the sprite got randomized too. This is phenomenal.
For the R series, yes. So we've got robotic, well, I guess Robo Luca siblings. They're in the same product line, so I guess that would be like siblings. But no, we're not gonna shoot them with the unfortunately, there's 4 of them, so probably wiser to just fire 2. Our series is one that we only have to fight 4 of them, which is nice. And because of the way boss spot hit points work, they're going to get split 4 ways. So usually they're not very threatening. If we don't have like the damage to just knock them all out at once, I know they start to get a little rough when there's like 2 or 1 left. They do other stuff, but very interesting animation here.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe a little macabre because normally it's a lava spawn there, right? So the shell makes a lot of sense that you climb on the shell to reach the ladder, but climbing on Luca's dead body to reach the ladder, little morgue-ish.
Phone has reached the top. Use the power of the egg to... In vanilla, this is how we're getting Chrono back. That's a time. This is how we summon Black Home. It's also a nice no inputs. The runner. Stretch the legs. Hydrate. Then jump in. Yeah, we can't, unfortunately. We can't go to Black Omen in 2300 AD. The doors are locked. We do have to change time periods to either the Ice Age one, 12,000 BC, 600 AD, or 1000 AD. We also can't get in prehistory because like something Lavos hasn't landed yet, or there's a reason for that too, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
So I think the other thing that's very different about the Black Omen is you would think that in all Go modes in a game like Chrono Trigger you fight Lavos. Not always the case. Black Omen does actually end at the Queen Zeal fight, which is at the top, rather than continuing on to Lavos. It's done more for a time issue to kind of equalize all the Go modes, so Black Omen isn't that much longer to then have to fight Lavos afterwards. So the Queen Zeal fight, I think some folks would argue, is a little bit easier. Really depends, right? It's a gray area, but it's such a long dungeon that they kind of have to take out that Lavos fight to make it not inherently that much longer than the other two.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of the changes in the randomizer for vanilla are mostly for like balance reasons. Like it was, really designed around being like a racing randomizer at its core, and so things like the slowest characters, Robo, Luca, Marl, have all had their base speed nudged up. I think like Luca's got like 6 base speed, which is like so slow relative to a lot of the other characters. So there's been little tweaks to like balance the characters amongst one another that I really find that. Yes, I have favorite characters, but it's pretty much always possible with any combination of characters to go through the game in jets of time. And then, as you mentioned, with like the go modes, like normally after you fight Zeal, then you're going through the Lavos fights. The Ocean Palace Lavos 1 is not the supercharged version that you run up to the first time that we run into them as well. So, but overall, yeah, the idea is that the go mode should be relatively similar in length. The asterisk is like, as we saw yesterday, like Magus can be rude and just not give you the element that you want. That fight takes forever. Or they immediately go like fire, fire, fire. And you got all Lucas, and you just blow them up, and you're out of there. But I think your point is definitely valid around like Zeal is more predictable. All of their like phases and fights are very scripted. Where Zeal is scary is if we don't have good single target damage. Or maybe if we had like a slow party. It's kind of the thing with that boss fight is being able to like burst around 10k of damage, heal up, do it again. Versus Lavos can do all sorts of weird stuff. Which we saw a little bit of that in the overnight as well.
Yeah, I will say the Zeal fight has more attacks that will take you to 1 with Halation. You will see it probably twice in the first fight in the chain, and then in the Zeal 2 fight, the final one, you're very likely to see Halation, or you will see a Halation there. So having a few more Mega Elixirs are not a requirement, but much more helpful, or having like those team heals can be super helpful. Oh, Drink's Glue is skewing the Moonstone and is going to give us the Son of Sun fight instead, which is Mudip, which I would say is maybe the last of our quote-unquote free bosses. Quite a pushover, not super difficult to do. Just got to get through that imp who has only a third of the HP of the spot and doesn't do a ton of damage.
Yeah, they have pretty high like defenses, but they would really need a pretty big hit point boost to be a more dangerous boss.
Fun hitting the first elevator in the Black Omen. So originally when the randomizer rolled out, the elevator fights were randomized, but it led to some unfortunate instances where folks got randomized, unfortunately, and picked up more fight than someone else. That would cost them a lot more time. So you will see the fights randomized each time you play a seed in the Black Omen, but it is relative to the seed. So each runner going through Black Omen will see the same amount of fights, so it's all things equal. I'm picking up another Prism Helm. That is phenomenal. Pick up a piece of armor.
Might have just found a different go. Maybe.
Oh, was that the sword piece in Sun Palace?
It was the Ruby Knife. But I was trying to remember if we've seen the Dreamstone yet.
No, we have not yet, unfortunately. So Dreamstone's still outstanding.
They're still one away.
Wow, and a Prism Specs too. The Black Omen is absolutely loaded. Prism Specs giving whoever is wearing it plus 25% to all damage.
Was that in chest or was that at the shop?
That was in the chest.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Another Crisis Gun.
we saw Blaze Kick doing 3,000 damage. And we just put put prism specs on both halves of that damage formula. So I think we're gonna see number go big.
Yeah, who needs nuance in the fight when you can practically, four-shot the final boss?
'Cause if I'm mathing correctly, should be seeing like 6K blaze kicks instead of.
Drink's Glow dipping into the Aerostone, one of the other checks. Still not doing the Moonstone quite yet, but doing this check as well. If this is Dreamstone, that would put him into go mode, which would be really, really neat, because we'd get to see another separate kind of go mode.
Yeah, and that would, if this was the Dreamstone, then they're right in the mix.
Yeah. Well, actually, now that I think about it, with us having feature access now through Dependent, that means all character checks are unlocked, which means that the other piece of sword would be go mode 2. We would have to find the frog, but we have the means to find the frog. It's out there.
Yeah. The future being like the fastest one that we could get.
So I think that brings up a pretty good question then, Fritz. Is a really good runner in this randomizer. I'd be curious to your thoughts on, if you pick up a sword piece here, do you keep doing key item checks because you don't want to do that Magus Castle, or do you go character hunting to find the frog and go Magus Castle go mode?
I think I would do a little bit of both, where it's like, okay, there's a character in the future that is very quick to go get. If that's not frog, then it gets a lot harder, where it's like, because what do I have left on the board is Genodome, and I'd probably turn in the Sunstone before I started looking for more characters.
Yeah, I don't think any of our runners went up Dactyl Nest. Dactyl Nest, not super long, but the 2 skips in there are really tricky, some of the trickiest in the entire randomizer, so it can extend itself and overstay its welcome if you do miss those.
Pair of sunshades to go with our specs, and now we have pretty much the most coolest style in this party imaginable. They've got rainbow helms, they've got fancy shades, sunglasses.
Yeah, I feel like for normal items, this has been one of the more generous seeds I've ever seen with that flag. Usually you see this sort of stuff if you're on easy items, but today, giveth.
Yeah, that's a good point. We do have the ability to basically adjust the drop loot tiers, as Beauty mentioned, easy, normal, which we're playing on, and hard items. Those also affect like shop prices and how much gold we start with. And then there's a similar difficulty setting for enemies and bosses, where hard will give them more stats and make them drop less experience and tech points.
I did misspeak earlier. I said that prison specs give you 25%. They actually give you 50%.
Oh yeah.
More damage.
Sunshades are the 25. But then that's where it's like, yeah, having that on. Ooh, this is Dreamstone for drinks.
Ooh, our first Labo spawn. So first boss fight in the Black Omen has given us a spawn.
We've got Point Flare. We've got Blaze Kick. We're not really at much trouble, I don't think. Yep.
5,500 damage. Holy Toledo.
Don't think we need to do more than. I always get the specific number of shots a little bit mixed up. I feel like this one's 10, 12. We don't have as many damage counting bosses in Jets. I appreciate it. Really only the ones that
Oh goodness, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, Dream School must have picked up that Dreamstone somewhere. I did miss it, but is in the Chrono layer, which is the unlock for the Gatekey, Ruby Knife, and Dreamstone Go mode. So we did miss that, and thankfully enough, that is a separate Go mode. Always fun to see more in a race like this.
Yeah, I believe they got that at the end of.
Airstone.
Yes.
Excellent.
I was like, the not Gina. was what was coming into mind.
Very cool. So we will see Lavos today, then Lavos at the end of that Go mode, as well as the Magus Castle, but
Yeah, we'll see.
we're going to get to see the true final boss.
We'll see Lavos, and depending again on like execution, I think Drake's Blue is in a little bit of a faster go mode overall. Part of it will depend on do we need to grind. Ocean Palace has like a repeatable grind spot. Black Omen is more how many fights do I take along the way. I find that generally in Black Omen we will gain 5 to 7 levels without trying. So that's something I try to factor in. And just looking at the runners levels, you mentioned the woe trip. No one's really coming in here under leveled, I would say. The Slash and the Nisbel 2 spot, but which one?
Yeah, Slash Original has some pretty gnarly counterattacks too, and can be a little tricky, but with these levels I severely doubt it. And it's Super Slash as well.
Super Slash. Super Slash has none of the like elemental killer Slash stats. Spicy Fire Whirl. Or Flame Toss. Saw one of those nasty counters, but pretty sure this will be done. A Golem boss. What a
I spoke too soon on the last of our free bosses. This is well and truly the freest of the free boss, where it will just self-kill itself and actually do no attacks. A lot of times it's faster to just go ahead and kill it because it is a long script, so that's what you see Phone doing. I'm sure that's what we'll see Lord Batsy do, but worst case scenario, if you did a cheeky low-level check, this is a fantastic boss to run into.
Yeah, we did see a Fire Whirl for about 5,500 damage.
I will say, Drinks Glue doing a fantastic job in all the skips. Chrono Layer has a fair amount of skips as well. They're definitely more on the trickier side, and has been executing them very, very well. Except for a little accidental trigger of this fight, you can't go between those buttons, but it is a fairly narrow window, especially when you're running off axis like he was.
Never seen the
I-
setup for the double
I-
jump skip.
I have not either, but I think I gave commentator jinx. I apologize, Glue.
Yeah, I feel like the setup that I use is using that like bottom little cul-de-sac. If I run against like the left part of it, it puts me like right in the spot. Just run straight up. Skip those, but I like seeing a different approach. 'Cause definitely less steps to try to go up and kind of creep over like that.
Oh, very funny. Phone play showing us that Flea Plus was one of the other bosses in the Black Omen, so apparently we maybe got a little bit of a boss shift between Magus Castle and, or maybe Ozzy's Fort in this case, and the Black Omen.
Yeah, kind of a lot of pushovers, to be honest. Especially with Flea Plus not having status protection, we can use like a Hypno Wave to just knock them out every turn.
Yeah, I will say I learned this randomizer not on boss rando, but on vanilla bosses, and Black Omen in that respect is probably the worst go mode because it's the mutants, and the mutants are really tough and can really challenge you at these high HP and high damage spots, especially the ones where you can only use magic, and you got to remember, do I attack the base, do I attack the top, and boss rando makes it a little bit easier overall, and today definitely a lot more easier for runners.
Yeah, it was something I really had to think about when I was trying to put together like the new player flags, because I think a lot of times keeping things close to vanilla is helpful for new players, but just as you mentioned, like, well, vanilla bosses at the end are actually like hard. Even with the twin golem spot in Ocean Palace, like if we don't have like elemental males or some way to mitigate how much damage they're gonna like output, like that's a tough fight to get through in a rando. So I ended up erring on the side of I think boss rando is actually easier, even though sometimes it can put bosses in the opening that are very challenging, right? Like if we get a lot of these magic immune bosses, and our starting characters are Chrono, Frog, Robo. You know, we don't have any magic techs. We might have to like do something weird in terms of like going for checks we wouldn't normally go through, or occasionally, yeah, there's just like a hard wall that we just have to reset and come back. We're already through Mammon Machine. I think Zeal's gonna last for 4 turns, max.
Just about, yeah. I was about to say, while we've been pontificating, Foam Plays not only got into the final boss gauntlet, so it's a 3-phase boss fight. Got through 2 of them before we even got to it. So Foam going into the final fight here. So on the fade out, we'll have time.
Yeah, and Zeal 2, 20k in the face. Don't hit the hands. We will be using like our fire whirls, but we've got that blaze kick. We've got point flare, which is also a single target attack. So I think it's really just going to be send it, wait for halation. If Phone is feeling real risky, they will just push and not worry about healing because they have enough damage that they could potentially do it. 6k.
Yeah, you don't see it so much in the Lavos fight, but in the Zeal fight, there's a lot of elemental damage. So the Skygate that it did on the left Marl, left Luca did quite a bit of damage. That's lightning, so if you have Flash Mail, it's going to absorb instead. Her ultimate move, Hexagon Mist, is Shadow and Water, so if you have Absorbing Mail there, that really negates a lot of the damage as well. But as Phone showing, you don't really have to worry about those things when you have so much stinking damage output. You can just chew through the boss in no time flat. Oh, what a gross wombo combo. Not even time to heal.
Queued up.
Oh!
Missed?
Absorbing Mail.
Absorb.
Paying.
Oh, nice. That's that black mail paying off dividends. Lasers are Shadow Element and Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, that could have been really gnarly and kind of set you in a bad loop.
Because I was going to say, that's really the one risk on the Zeal fight, even when we're incredibly powerful, is if one of those hands has their attack queued up right after halation, which Phone was incredibly fast queuing up the Mega Elixir immediately. And we saw, even still, didn't have time. Okay.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be the final hit here.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, go for the full hit. It better be. And it sure is.
Yeah.
GG's to Phone, our first racer done on the winner of today's race. Phenomenal execution and like a very giving party, really giving loot. This would have been a great seat for folks learning because it wasn't so challenging, but Phone showing his prowess and winning.
Yeah, definitely. There were certainly a lot of rando flags going on, but the combinations of them certainly I felt like tilted in the favor of going fast.
Dreek's Blue making their way into Zeal, now into the first fight, or I should say only fight in Zeal, which will unlock the Ocean Palace and get you into that final dungeon for him. But first he has to get through the absolute beefcake that is Masa Immune.
Yeah. A little bit spicy at this spot, but not like having more than 7,000 hit points spicy, so. We're getting through there. I feel like on drink side, we're not going to see much grinding, if any. Probably going to run down those stairs as fast as we can and get into the Lavos beating up phase.
Yeah, Glue did a lot of grinding up on Woe, and all the check sense have given more experience. I doubt he is worried at all about levels, so only going to be hitting what he has to, run from what he can, and just trying to expedite, especially because I don't know about everybody, but I'm a race room watcher, and if Glue's a race room watcher too, you're starting to think to yourself, okay, well, I'm not taking first, but can I still score that second place?
Yeah, sometimes I am a race room watcher. Other times I like to wait until, like in Worlds Collide, maybe I peak the transition up to Tier 4. And Jets I might look coming out of Mammoth Machine or like Lavos
Yeah,
2.
in a group fight, in a group race like this, I like to race and watch. But if it's 1v1, no way. I don't want to have it cloud my judgment. I like to try and not get discouraged even if I don't win. So.
Batsy heading into their final series of fights here. I think we're going to see similar stuff. I think it's going to go also pretty fast.
And if we have a moment, I could jump in with a quick donation. We have $25 from Dinah Osborne, who has generously donated for the task name bid war for $25 to call them Liam.
Very much.
They're all white mages, so the one that survives. Are they really all white mages? Yeah. The 4 white mages.
Wow. One shot. No halation. No need to even.
Wow, no halation is fantastic. Although Lord Batsy, we didn't call it out when Phone did it, but Lord Batsy also hitting the menu glitch. So normally, these are all sequential fights. There's no time, there's no menu. You're just going one right after the other. But there is a very short window between the fights, right when the screen goes fully black, where if you hit your menu button, you can go into the menu and then heal up and re-equip if you get a good drop or something like that. So really, once again, showing off the crowd.
Yeah, that makes
we're now 2 for 2 on this glitch.
a couple of these final boss fights a little bit more manageable. Particularly if we're coming in at like low level.
I saw him when I was Okay. Gotcha.
All right, Mammoth Machine releasing the energy, which means we can release our magic to its fullest potential. The phone and chat sure was a starting party. Yeah, Firewhirl ended up being incredible, but it looked like that tailspin came so late. I feel like a phone would have known that in advance. Yeah, they would have put all their magic tabs on Ayla.
Yeah, as you were mentioning earlier, Whirl is pretty much her only magic attack, so very infrequently are you putting magic tabs on there. But, you know, hey, this would have been the seed to do it.
Yeah, that Firewhirl, it is fire elements, but it still keeps the ignore magic defense, and that means it will damage the brain bit of Lavos, even if we don't have defense down. Which is pretty nice. Got to do some elevator fights here in Ocean Palace. One of the fast ways to get through those is to lower like a Frog or Ayla's hit points. Dino Tail, Frog Squash. The reason being is these scout fights on the elevator, we don't often have the elements to be able to deal with them quickly. Even if we did, single targeting is slower than doing one Dino Tail and wiping them all out. That's why Thean Drinks let the statue shoot him a bunch to do damage. I was going to say the healing items they rolled pretty low, and it looked like something happened.
Lord Batsy was getting absolutely bullied by Zeal 2, really focusing its damage on the left Luca rather than spreading it out, giving her very little time to do healing, and as Phone and Chat pointing out, healing item Rando, very rude today. Normally Lapis does 200 healing and is a very reliable source of healing. Only 102. I think, is that the lowest it can roll? It feels like it.
Off the top of my head, I know that it can also roll to be an MP party heal. 100 feels like 102 is probably low. That's the lowest I've ever seen. I think a lot of the healing items rolled under overall, because I saw like mid ethers were like 24 MP, and then the one disadvantage of this party is we don't have any full party healing. 100 for everyone is not to.
It does look like Lapis can roll all the way down to 90. I guess as the remote commentator, I do have access to that wiki and can actually figure that out.
Texts. I don't know. Yeah, the scouters get kind of nasty if they get more than one turn. We might have got a low Dino Tail. Oh, we did see that. There was a moment for Phone where we were like, oh no, and then we saw the green number on the laser.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't see what that Dino Tail rolled, but it must have been pretty darn low if Blue is converted over to physical attacks and kind of playing this more straight rather than leaning on the full screen clear.
Yeah, because it's usually 15, and so if it rolled like 1 or 2 or 4 even, probably not enough power to get through. This first fight is Little Rando. You can run from the first elevator fight before he flip the elevator. The rest we do have to take. But sometimes if we're not sure about Dino Tail power, I will take that first fight as like a vibe check. Unfortunately, the vibes were bad, and so definitely gonna probably reconsider a little bit of how to get through the scouters without using the Dino Tail. Any of Ayla's attacks are going to be powerful enough to drop one of them. We can use single target fire on the other couple, so be able to get through. It would just be not as fast as we may have wanted.
Yeah, I feel like as someone learning just the time, not just the skips and how to route around fights, but kind of learning where you do have required fights that you can't skip, which are runnable, which are not, is a little difficult. And I could see maybe some of the race pressure, especially not seeing that second place finish yet. So you're still thinking you're in it, and you still think you got a shot. Maybe miss that was runnable.
Ooh, again with the lasers.
Yeah, once Zeal 2 just still being a bully to Lord Batsy. Gosh. That's very rude.
Sending it. I think we're close enough. Probably.
Yeah, interesting. Going for the risky play of going for it. And it is. GG's to Lord Batsy, taking second place in today's race. That was a nail biter to the end as well. Ugh. Yeah, I think you mentioned it early on, but you never, ever want to attack those hands. And so it can be very tricky having a Zeal 2 fight when your party really leans in on the AoE or maybe doesn't have the strongest single target attacks. And so kind of looking at what her options were, decide to lean in on the Hail Mary as Phone put it in chat and go with that fire too, and it did it.
Yeah, counting damage for me personally is hard when I'm trying to input commands really fast. And so sometimes a little bit of that, like, we're probably close enough. And we were.
And then there was one, Drinks Glue, making the way down the elevator. I believe this is the last fight in the elevator. We'll have 2 more fights to skip, and that will put him into the boss fight right before Lavos. So getting very close to his Lavos fight as well.
Get to see who is at the twin golem spot. I'd like to see a double golem boss. That would be great. Maybe 8 RCs.
So remind me, in that spot, normally you get 1 boss per, but in that spot it can be any boss. It doesn't matter if you've seen a boss before or whatever. It's truly randomized. Correct?
I think so. I feel like there may be an exception to that. Like, I don't know if you can get double Guardian. Or like double Zombor. But
Yeah, I would assume any multi-target isn't there. So, like Guardian or Zombor.
Red Knight. But yeah, it won't be the same as whoever was in the throne spot. I think logically that would make sense, right? We did see like that was mass immune, so that was true. We would see 2 of them in the back, but I think it is truly random. So I think, yeah, Drinks is heading in. One last boss. Lavos fights. Probably 15-ish minutes from the finish here. Okay. Which one? Oh no. Not ideal. Luckily, we can kind of focus on one. But there's, yeah, Flea's gonna do a lot of dumb status stuff in the meantime. time. They're pretty fast. This spot's pretty fast. So we're going to see a lot of fleet turns. Max MP Firewall. Nice.
Nowhere near anywhere on my route.
More annoying statuses, which we're going to see.
They're a good, solid travel.
Okay, that's actually not bad.
Oh, yeah.
Should definitely drop one of them, if not both.
So I'm thinking about it. On a fleet, could you get double stared potentially? I mean, damage output, obviously, we're on the other side of it already, but
Yeah, you could potentially.
there's got to be next to no party comps that isn't a full wipe if you get double stared at this spot.
Not without, like, everyone rocking some golden earrings for the extra HP, but even then, I think at this spot, stairs are going to be doing like 350 a party member.
That's going to feed me tonight and give me breakfast.
But a nice job of kind of managing the damage so that we didn't trigger that. Phone pointing out that the stair won't trigger if a party member is dead. But here we go. We're gonna see this Lavos fight, starting with the shell. Shell's 10,000 hit points. It does kind of the same stuff over and over again. We probably won't see its full script, if I'm being honest.
I wouldn't imagine so.
The status protection, definitely more important. Lavos obstacle will inflict some sort of random status hit. Amulets will protect against that. Prism dresses, vigil hats. We've seen some decent stuff floating around, so I think we're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, like you mentioned, levels can be very tricky, can be very chaotic, not the least of which is two phases have obstacle, which are full party status effects, and if you roll something really unfortunate like maybe even a single, much less a double chaos, can really throw you off. But with the damage output here, I would think that it's recoverable, especially if you have some heals available.
Okay, it's lock.
Oh yeah, just a lock. That's not too bad. A little unfortunate, but very easy to work around. At least she's not gonna turn around and start beating on your own party, right?
And that's Lavos 1 down, the 4,500 Firewall. 20 MP, 20 MP. Where was Ocean Palace going? It was the dome. Airstone had knife. And then Sun Palace had the other one.
Yeah, I think it was Ruby Knife and Sun Palace and Dreamstone in the
Might have been vice
in
versa,
Airstone.
but yeah. The other two were in the not Geno Dome checks.
Genodome, I won't say a meme, but like definitely one of the hardest dungeons. It's an optional dungeon in game, has a key item check, and Jets must have had that other sword piece in it, but it's a tricky one. So unless you're going there with pretty high levels, it can throw you off. Though with the right setup, an early dip in there is a really fantastic grind, similar to WoW almost.
Yeah. It's another one where you have to have the speed. We did see we saw one sword piece
It's Denadaro.
It's a Denadoro, yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a fair bit of vanilla in this scene.
Well, at this point, I think we know that the other one, don't.
I think that's, yeah, I agree. I think that's the only check we didn't see. Because Blue even picked up that Hero's Medal and checked the holo.
Which, since Pendant was kind of hard to find. Yeah, the frog mode was not. Well, we don't even know what a frog is. The frog mode is not going to happen. Getting a little
Oh,
unlucky with
interesting.
the double laser bananas on Robo Ayla, but.
Well, actually, in that case, one of them did hit the Marl Ayla, but she has a save helm on, which is really showing the power of the save helm. It only did like 133 damage when normally it hits for 300 to 400. They're super strong, so I think that's a really good example of where those save helms are really, really useful, even though something like Prism helms are generally considered to be better.
Yeah, the gear was rolling good for the most part. Although, because Drinks Clue did not go through the Black Omen, they don't have. They might have one Sunshades, but not the 2 Prism Shards.
Yeah, those are in the Black Omen.
With Phase 2, we've seen obstacles, so the defense drops. We saw that Fire Whirl was still able to do damage, even though the head hadn't dropped their defense yet. So that helped us get a little bit of extra damage in. So we only need to do about 6k more, and then we're into Phase 3. This fire might do it. Wait. Nope. I said I was bad at damage count.
There it is.
Not even doing it live on stream.
Same here. So we mentioned earlier in the Zeal fight through Black Omen that there is a menu glitch there. There's a menu glitch in Lavos as well, and it's right here between Phase 2 and 3. There's a super narrow window. There's actually a flag that widens the window, kind of a newbie friendly to kind of get folks a little more used to it, a little more familiar with it. But with that flag off, it takes a lot of finesse to hit that, but it gives you the opportunity to heal up, re-equip as needed before going into Lavos 3.
And usually we're in kind of rough shape coming out of Lavos 2. Not quite being at 1 hit point the way we are coming out of Zeal 1. I think there's at least 1 Mega Elixir floating around. We did not go into it, but we're in decent shape.
Yeah, and with the damage output we have, I imagine we'll go with kind of standard strats, which is take the center bit down, has, is it 1200 HP? And then once that center bit's down, the right bit, which is the true Heart of Lavos, lowers its defense, and then you can start pouring on the damage there. If you have different setups, definitely something a little more AoE based, you can go for left bit strats. I'm very weak at those. I feel like they're a bit more challenging, but with this party, center bit's the way to go.
I like the Protect All there because Lavos has immediately gone into prehistory, so they will be doing big stone physical attack. Well. Luka Luka is gonna go down here for sure.
Thank you, phone and chat, for correcting me. It's only 8,000 for the center bit, so not even 10.
Hey, Revive's rolled higher. That's tough. We call that an example of Lavos being Lavos. friend from Drinks Glue. A valiant attempt there at Lavos.
Yeah,
I know they would get
GG's
through
to Drinks Glue.
a second attempt, but we also have the schedule to think about, and it's a great effort from all of our runners out there. GG's all. I think that also kind of highlights the AOE healing. We don't miss it until we do, and that's in the final fights.
Absolutely. I feel like most people say Frog is one of the weaker characters, but Heal, which is a full party heal in his tech tree, is incredibly value and can keep you on your feet in some cases, even if his damage output is lacking.
But yeah, it was a fun race to watch and call. Definitely had a good time commentating with you, Beauty and Discovery. Look over at the host, see what we got going on. So we got some more stuff coming, but thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Thanks for accommodating the majority of our folks being remote. It's been a blast and much appreciated at the FFR community. A little bit of a shout out for our community. We have our own Discord channel, of course. We're actually on the precipice of a tournament coming up at the end of the month. It's one of the fun things about the randomizer is there is a couple different modes, and we're actually doing a non-standard mode. So if you're interested in playing, thought this looked fun, come and join us. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, I know we also have we have a tournament for, not the mode we saw here. It's called Legacy of Cyrus. Placements. Don't have to fight Lavos. That's good. And it's a mode that kind of features Frog and Magus and kind of their story. Yeah, we still have signups open for that, so check it out.
Thank you all so much. And we're going to squeeze in one more donation while we got the Chrono Trigger group on here. We have a $100 donation from Lord Batsy saying, thanks again for having me and Jets of Time in the marathon. It's always a great time. Thanks, Fitz, for repping us in person. Put this toward filling up whatever incentives need to be met the soonest. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you for the game. Congratulations, and what a weekend we've had. Thank you so much. We're going to transition over to a little bit of a bonus, and then we'll be back in a minute.